when I look at this team right now, I think two things have to happen with Tampa. Number one, look, I understand their defense was on the field a lot last night. They were a paper mache defense in the second half of this game. And I understand they're not getting any help from the offense. I get it. But, you saw one time yesterday, the announcers pointed out, I think it was Al, pointed out that Devin White was Defensive Player of the Month in September. He won't be Defensive Player of the Month after that game last night, I'll tell you that much. Their linebacker play last night on the second level, they gave up so many runs. And Mike, listen, normally you say, well, the Ravens, they will run the ball as well as Lamar Jackson runs it. Non-Lamar Jackson rushes last night, 188 yards. And so that's why, to me, we are going to spend 97% of our time about the Bucs talking about Brady. I get it. But, man, that defense let him down in a big way last night.
Yeah, 65 yards for Gus Edwards in his second game back from last year's absence due to injury. Kenyon Drake was 62, Justice Hill with 28. Devin Duvernay had a couple of runs for 33 yards. And Lamar Jackson only, as if that's a knock, but it's not, 43 yards. We're just used to more in the running game from Lamar Jackson. But this is what we've been saying the Ravens need to do. They need more guys to step up in the running game. And they have, even with J.K. Dobbins on injured reserve, possibly coming back later in the year, which would make them even more dangerous. With Dobbins and Edwards and Drake and Hill, they could become even more dangerous offensively. The defense of the Buccaneers, Peter, is it as simple as Todd Bowles was the coordinator last year. He was completely in charge of the defense. Bruce Arians didn't do anything with it, and Bowles could focus entirely and exclusively all of his time and attention on making that defense as good as it can be, coaching, teaching, preparing, executing. And now that he's the head coach, you're not spending as much time, if you're Todd Bowles, on the defense. And maybe it's starting to show. Is it sometimes we complicate this game? Sometimes things are simple. Could it be that simple?
I don't think so, Mike. And I'll tell you why. They are, I would say, almost in every metric, they're not as good as they were a year ago. They're not as good against the run. They're certainly not as good. And again, look, their secondary last night, was missing 3 or 4 starters. I get it. But this is a team right now that, if you look at the way the Bucs play, they need their defense to give them advantages. Okay, they need their defense to give them momentum. And when you look at how their defense has played, so far in 8 games, given up 13 touchdown passes, which is above the pace of last year, worse than the pace. Mike, the one thing that you really thought of this Tampa defense that they would be able to do is to stop the run. And they're allowing 4.8 a carry. And, a lot worse than last year. And so I just would say none of us are inside that building. We don't know what is the level of time, what's the amount of time that Todd Bowles now has been taken away from the hands-on with the defense. Maybe it's significant. I just can't believe that the guys who have played so well there over the years, especially in that front seven, have been as leaky as they are. And look, the second half of that game last night, I was thinking about this during the game, so I went back right after the game and I looked it up. In their last 4 second halves, okay, because we've been talking about how the Ravens have been blowing games at an alarming clip. Their last 4 games in the second half, they scored 29 points. Lamar Jackson threw 1 touchdown pass collectively over that 4 games. And last night, Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdown passes, and they scored 24 points. So they basically all but equaled their output over the last 4 games in the second half in one night on a warm, humid night in Tampa, where the team with staying power was not the team that practices and plays in that warmth and humidity. It's the team from up north that came in and really rubbed Tampa Bay's faces in it.
And it is surprising that between the two teams, the Buccaneers were the ones that seemed to be dealing with the short week in a bad way, wearing down as the game went on after playing 2 games between Sunday and Thursday. And maybe there was some spillover from what happened on Sunday. You lose 21-3 to the Carolina Panthers, and you can't wipe that taste out of your mouth quickly enough to be ready to play full 4 quarters. I don't know, but we saw it last night. And Peter, on the issues against the run, they had Ndamukong Suh last year. They have Akeem Hicks this year, but he's been injured, and they miss Akeem Hicks. But they have Vita Vea. And what's weird is, in the past 2 years, there have been times when Vita Vea was injured and the defense was still good enough. I mean, Vita Vea is great, but they need somebody next to him who can get it done. And if they can get Hicks back and get him going and get him playing the way that he used to, now, one of the realities is you get to a point where you can't play the way you used to, but that run defense really is the problem, and it allows a defense, it forces a defense to stay on the field, systematic dismantling, and it keeps Tom Brady on the sideline during the moment in the game where he still has that reservoir of will and urgency and skill and ability, and he lives for those moments. But if the defense isn't stopping the other team, it really doesn't matter. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.